That started. Okay, all right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today and for being an integral part of the Adirondack Nonprofit Network. I'm Leslie Munger from the Adirondack Community Foundation, and I'm joined today by my colleagues CJ Dates and Matt Donahue. These learning sessions are brought to you in partnership with the Cloud Splitter Foundation and the United Way of the Adirondacks. All of our collaborative efforts make our organizations stronger, our communities more adaptable, and our region more resilient. So a couple of businessy things. We will have Q&A sessions throughout the presentation, so please mute yourself until then. The recording of this session and the slides will be provided to all registrants. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and share the organization you are with and your favorite spring flower if you are feeling so inclined. And with that, I will pass it to CJ.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So before we get started, hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I'm in Ausable Forks, and you all know how Adirondack Wi-Fi can be sometimes, so hopefully it'll work okay for this conversation. And I want to do a little exercise before we get into like the details of this training. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can mute your screen if you'd rather mute your video when you close your eyes. I realize closing your eyes on a Zoom is kind of a weird activity, but and if you want to close your eyes and mute your video, just close your eyes and think for a second about all of the people that were having conversations 50 years ago about your organization, and all the people who were having conversations 25 years ago about your organization, and all the people who are having conversations just 5 years ago about your organization. In those conversations, there were people saying yes, there were people saying no, there were people asking questions and asking clarifying questions. There were people who are having all of these conversations that have led us to you being able to sit in this training to learn about how you can have those conversations. And the conversations that you're going to be trained for, and the ones you're going to be having, and the ones you're going to be courageous in, hearing yes and hearing no and answering questions, they're going to allow for the people 25 years from now and 50 years from now to be doing this similar work. And when we think about legacy planning, that's really what we're doing, is situating ourselves at the seam between all of the people who have come before us and all the conversations that we can have for all the people that are going to come after us. Okay, now open your eyes. When you go into legacy conversations, that's the network that you're stepping into. You're talking to donors about all of the people that have come before them that have allowed us to do work today, and all the people that are going to come after them that are going to be able to continue this work. And sometimes it helps to situate ourselves in that larger frame before we start having these big conversations with people about the future and about their plans and their resources and how they might want to mobilize them. So one conversation happened maybe just a year ago was Cara Page reached out to me and said, there's going to be a big wealth transfer and a lot of assets are going to move between hands of generations. And I'm concerned that the nonprofit sector of the Adirondacks isn't really ready for it. And so a lot of these trainings have grown out of that conversation between Cara and I to say, how can we prepare the nonprofit sector so that when this great wealth transfer is happening and all these trillions of dollars are passing hands, we're really ready to benefit from it. And we're really preparing the nonprofit sector to be ready for it in the Adirondacks. So that's where we are in the the big question. And with that, I'm going to pass the conversation over to Matt, and Leslie's going to bring up the slides so we can talk about how to have these conversations.
Hey, thanks, CJ. That was a great exercise. Um, CJ is pointing out the the profound sort of symbolic nature of legacy giving. He is also alluding to the fact that um, there's many hands and hearts and minds behind the organization. And there are a lot of folks who are in a position to sort of make a life statement and impact the future of your organization. And I do say many people, this is your organizations work with lots of donors who have come into the mix, who maybe have kicked the tires and then seen over the years the impact of your organization on the Adirondack region. They become personally connected, and then they become personally connected to you. People give to people as well as organizations. And these kind of legacy conversations are important to the future, and to the fiscal sustainability of your organization. So thank you to Kara for nudging us to have this conversation and to start the process of helping you to conceptualize the building of a legacy program. Today will be about some facts. It will be about a lot of generalizations. It will be about donor behavior, but it's also going to be about your responses. I'm going to pause a couple times just to reflect and take questions, and then have you answer a couple of questions as we go. I understand from the list of folks attending that we're speaking today with representatives of organizations that are all over the map. Some have very advanced legacy programs, and some are just starting. This will be a great sharing of ideas. I think that's going to be a bit of a pep talk for all of us, because legacy work is not accomplished all at once. It is the result of years of relationship building. So thanks, Leslie. Next slide, please. So again, back to Kara for pointing out that today's conversation is not exclusively about legacy programs and making a gift after your lifetime. It's also about using a primary engine for building your endowment, and that is plan giving. I'm going to use legacy giving and plan giving interchangeably. Legacy giving is about conceptualizing how you're going to leave your legacy, and plan giving maybe is a little more particular. It's about making strategic choices to both benefit the charities that you care about and um, lighten the load on your estate and help reduce tax implications on both your estate and your heirs. So this is about a conversation you're having with the people that appeals to both their hearts and their logic. Okay? So let's focus. CJ mentioned that we're going to stay on that previous slide, Leslie. Sorry. Let's focus on some details here. A great wealth transfer is underway. To be specific, the estimates are at about 78 trillion. That's a T in the US. That will eventually happened through the 2040s. And that also positions Generation X to start the next round of legacy planning and conceptualization about how they're going to leave their impact. This this is not just about numbers. This is about talking to donors about how they can scale up their giving, how they can make a sort of uh, a statement that reflects their charitable priorities, and how they can make a difference in a way they can't during their lifetime. And that difference will benefit both the charity and your heirs too. So it's a great conversation to be having. I'll point out that for many donors, we've seen statistically planned giving feels a little more feasible, that donors can scale up their giving with a planned gift in a way they can't during their lifetime. They need liquidity during their lifetime, but at the same time, they realize they can't take it all with them. Planned giving is useful not only for endowment building and the sustainability of your organization, it's also about deepening the relationship with your donors. Statistically, once donors make a planned gift, they increase their giving. They're in it with you on an annual basis. But that also requires work. You have to stay with your legacy family, your legacy society, for sure. I'll note that to be concrete here, the National Association of Charitable Gift Planners, this last detail on this slide, talks about an amplifier effect in planned gifts. They can often be 200 times a typical annual gift. So when you're looking at your donor list, you want to look at all kinds of donors. Let's take a look at the next slide, Leslie. Good legacy prospects are actually across the spectrum. Of course, your lead donors and your board of trustees. And in fact, the board is where you often want to start to bring in your legacy ambassadors. You need spokespeople, you need representatives, you need peers that can talk to other peers about the value of legacy giving and supporting the mission of your charity. Crucial. But planned giving is often derivative of the long-term connection that donors have with your organization. Planned giving conversations usually start with donors age 55 plus. Most people are not in the position to start thinking about their estates, and they're probably in college mode. So it's a complicated time before the age of 55. But a clearer picture usually happens at that age. There are a lot of transitions at that point, especially getting toward retirement. And first, serious conversations with attorneys and financial advisors about the estate are happening. So, in terms of legacy prospects, it is truly the common denominator is longevity of giving. A donor who gives $25 a year for 20 years is a great legacy prospect. This is really about looking at your data, going through your donor database and understanding who's been giving over a long term, who has capacity. It helps to understand if they're exclusive to your organization, if they do a lot of generalized giving. You really want to understand who is in your database and who feels like a good prospect based upon the connection they have. You also want to book appointments. You want to have visits with these folks and start the conversation. And I'll point out that this is often a long-term conversation. You're not going to get a legacy gift overnight, because we all know these are complicated decisions. People are concerned about their family, they're concerned about their spouses, they're concerned about the assets that they're moving along, and they're concerned about the array of the type of assets that they have. Some are very complex. We'll get into that later in this conversation. But the issue primarily is to make sure you're establishing relationships with donors who can help you carry the message, primarily trustees and primarily lead donors who are making these commitments. You want to start there, but then you want to make sure you're having appeals that are going out to your much of your population, but also focused on the long-term devoted givers that you have. Next slide, please. Some important things. Make legacy giving, put legacy giving, plan giving in front of people as often as possible. In your publications, always have a legacy feature. In your appeals, always have a checkbox at the end of the appeal. We wish to learn more about legacy giving. Send us information at our address. Or, as is often the case, we love your organization and we made a legacy gift. Give people the opportunity to respond in every appeal to say, this is something we have thought about or are considering right now. In plan giving promotions, I referred to them as legacy ambassadors before. Use the peers of the people you want to do plan giving. Make sure you have testimonials in your promotions. Start with approachable plan giving options. A simple bequest, giving from your IRA or 401k, using life insurance. Donor advised funds are great sources of bequests. There are more and more donors out there who are appreciating the tax advantages of donor advised funds, and they have donor advised funds either at community foundations or all those commercial firms, Fidelity, Schwab, you name it. They're an important part of a sort of legacy portfolio for people. And in the case of the IRA, the 401k, the life insurance, a donor advised fund, there's no lawyer involved. You simply fill out a beneficiary form. These are simple, approachable modes of giving. Everyone's eventually going to have to hopefully, going to have to talk to their attorney about their estate and about their will or trust. So that's the most common way you're going to see legacy gifts coming to you. I underscore this. When you're promoting, when you're sitting down with donors, always ask them to consult with their legal or financial advisors. It's very important that you're not offering yourself as the sort of bottom line expert. You're someone who's counseling them, but they must pursue any kind of plan giving options with a professional that they trust. Okay. I'm also going to emphasize the last part. When people make a legacy gift, it's yours to lose. You want to be sure you've developed a legacy society. We simply have a legacy family, but many organizations have a founding donor or a sort of symbolic or emblematic icon that is the basis of their legacy society. Use a legacy society name that's going to appeal to your particular donors, and make sure you gather these people. Legacy donors like to meet other legacy donors, people who have taken the same big step. And at these legacy gatherings, get people together, but also celebrate your mission and your achievements and the organization's impact. You really have to stay in front of these legacy donors um, to guarantee, to ensure that they're going to maintain their legacy gift to you. Next slide, please. Here's a sample promotional bit from one of our legacy advertisements. Great to have um, an actual person who has made the commitment and who can speak to the ease of doing such a thing, especially if they can be particular. I've made a bequest. I'm giving from my IRA. I have a charitable remainder trust that I put together with my financial advisor to illustrate the type of methods using people who have made the commitment is really effective. They're more effective than often the staff at the organization are in conveying the importance of doing this. I'm going to also emphasize that whenever you have a legacy promotion, you want to make it easy for people to include bequest language in their will or trust, pass along language to their attorney. Be specific. I wish to make a gift to and give them sample legacy language to charity X located in Lake Placid, New York, and always include the tax ID number of the charity. A 501(c)(3) number or charity is always given an EIN or a tax ID number. Make sure that's included. Adirondack Community Foundation has changed its name twice, and um, we're deliberate about attaching a tax EIN number to any kind of legacy promotion we have. We want to be sure that the gift makes it to us. That's important. Next slide, please. So we're going to take a break here for a second, and I'm going to throw a couple of questions at the whole group. We were thinking about breakout groups, but I think some of you are here to listen, and others here can pass along some wisdom as to how they've promoted legacy giving and the kind of donors that step up to help. I'm going to open this up to the whole audience here. Does anyone want to share what kind of legacy promotions have worked for them?
Well, I can say that
Go
in
ahead.
1939, we had a woman that did a legacy, and it was an endowment that we've been working on since 1939. And we've never had to do fundraising, but we've now found that we're trying to enlarge our capacity and things that we offer to the community. So now we're working on fundraising. We've done 2 years of an annual giving, and we've learned a lot. And so, yeah, she was a wonderful lady, Cora Putman Hale.
Cora Putnam Hale. Yeah. So, and do you have a Cora Hale Society at this point? Are you going to put together?
No, we didn't think, we haven't thought about that. This is our first, just 2 years that we've started fundraising, sending a letter out. So, and we've been working with Cara too.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think her example is going to be terrific to help you pull in other people who are
Mhm.
devoted to the youth of Elizabethtown,
Right.
right? Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Any other examples of promotions that have worked?
This is Donna Beal from
Hi, Donna.
Hi, how are you? Mercy Care for the Adirondacks. We're a small organization. We only have a team of 7. We don't have a development office, but once a year we send out a bequest letter, and we use the guidance that Matt has suggested, making sure we have our EIN, sample bequest language. And we just received an actualized bequest of $40,000 plus that we did not know we were going to receive.
Mm.
And it was from a woman who gave us her largest gift over a period of like 10 years was $200. And usually it was $100. And her attorney wrote to us and let us know that we were the beneficiary, a percentage of her estate, a
Mhm.
woman from Paul Smith's.
Wow.
And so what we do is all of the people that have notified us that they have made an intention, we include an intentional card that they complete. And if somebody lets us know, but in this case, she didn't. And from what I understand, the percentages are you'll receive bequests from more people that you don't know have made a
Yeah.
bequest to you than more people that do. So we have what's called the Circle of Mercy. And in
Right.
that circle of mercy are the people that we know of that have either made bequests or their intention to make a bequest. And we're young, we were only founded in 2007. And from what I also understand is a lot of or donors, unless you've been around for like 25 plus years, you're less likely perhaps to be able to attract bequests because people need that assurance that you are sustainable
Mhm.
before doing something like that. So we feel very blessed.
That's a great story, and it's a testament to the benefits of making the promotions. Sometimes you just simply have to have the exposure, uh, the exposure to the public of your mission and the opportunities to do plan giving. Sometimes plan givers are like silent partners. They're hearing you, but you're not going to find out until later. But the repetition of the plan giving information and the benefits of plan giving, it always pays off.
And we select the donors that we send this to. Anyone who is given to Mercy Care three times over a period of 10 years at any giving level.
Yeah.
So some of our donors are not wealthy that we know about.
Yeah, that is important at any giving level. This is about repetition and connection of the person to the organization. So critical. I'll take one more success story or question before we head on.
I can share one from the Northern Force Center.
Hi, Becky.
Hi, how are you all? We have, in addition to, operating as a traditional nonprofit, we also manage impact investment funds. And so we've been doing that since about 2017. And we're now in our fourth fund. And we realized partway through our third fund that when investors, invest their principal, we have an opportunity to ask them, should something happen to them during the term of their investment, would they be interested in bequesting that principal to the organization? So again, it was sort of an opt-in that took us a while to figure out. It's actually kind of
Mhm.
a low lift, but we've actually had a recent incidents where that actually came to fruition. So we have our first legacy gift through this donation of a principal, because again, to your point, we made it an option right from the
Yeah,
beginning that someone could opt into that opportunity.
that's fantastic, Becky. Some great stories here. We're going to head back into the slideshow unless someone has a pressing question. But I'll point out that oftentimes, especially young organizations and even young staffers at organizations tell us, hey, I don't feel like I'm in the position to talk to someone about such a profound thing, making a legacy gift, giving to my organization after their lifetime. But as Donna shows us, um, as Becky shows us, donors who are connected to you really like these conversations. You're not always going to hear what you want to hear or think you need to hear, but these conversations are strategically driven. They want to be sure that they're making an impact, and if they have resources that are not going to be used after their lifetime, they want to be sure that it's fueling the mission that they love, that's been upheld by your organization. So never be daunted by these conversations because your most connected donors get it. They understand this. And even if they put it off, you've gotten in front of them and you've delivered the message that it's a possibility. Okay, we're gonna start moving into specific plan giving options. And I'll start that by just saying you want to have a conversation with plan givers. Once they've responded, I note that sort of a prospect category for you are those, and you see this with every organization, those donors who have checked a box on your appeal, send me more information. They may not respond to you right away. They may not want to sit down and book an appointment, but those are primary prospects. You want to continue to build up that list of people who are making inquiries and stay in touch with them. And maybe have annual check-ins, but make sure you're continuing the conversation so that when they're ready to make this commitment, you can have that conversation. And I will say, donors who are long-term givers, who are of means, who are strategic thinkers, they like weighing these options. They like exploring the variables and understanding that there's a lot of potential behind their legacy gift. They have an ability to scale up their giving through plan giving, that they normally don't have during their lifetime, and they can make a transformational gift. Okay, so I'll move on here to the most popular plan giving vehicles. I sort of have earmarked four, and then we'll take another pause. But the first one is nationally the most widespread and common plan gift, which is a straight out bequest. I've been to a couple plan giving presentations where they say, hey, don't even use the word bequest. That confuses some people. A gift via a will or trust. That depends on your audience, but that's a pointer. A gift in your will makes crystal clear sense to people. A bequest and a gift from a will or a trust is, for the most part, revocable. And I want to point this out. Revocable is important because they can change their mind. They can always go back to their attorney or their professional advisor and make a change. They may have a falling out with certain nonprofits and pivot to others. You want to stay in front of your donors and really make sure they're part of your legacy society. Make sure you have stewardship visits. You want to be sure that they understand the value of your mission, and the impact of the work that you're doing. Bequests come in multiple forms. It can be a straight out gift of cash. It can be a percentage of the estate. It could be a residual amount that comes after all obligations and all dispositions made to heirs happens. I will emphasize again that you want to be sure that your donors have the language of a bequest in their hand, either in articles that you run about making a planned gift, or promotional ads, or in your standard annual appeal. You want to include specific language about your organization. It's happened to us. Planned gifts that were meant for other organizations. The word Adirondack is guess what, a popular word here as at the start of a nonprofit. So we've had gifts directed to us and vice versa, gifts directed to other nonprofits that were intended for us. You want to be sure the the most accurate information about your charity is conveyed. Okay? Next slide, please. The next type of planned gift is possible through a donor-directed fund or a donor-advised fund. You've heard of donor-advised funds. As I've said before, they're offered by many national commercial banks. Have a conversation. That's part of a checklist when you have a conversation with a potential legacy donor. You can make a bequest. You can fill out a standard kind of beneficiary form that allows you to make a bequest from your donor advised fund to your favorite charity. Um, donors can make IRA gifts to donor advised fund, and the donor advised fund can be a vehicle that conveys gifts to a charity over time after your death. You can also, I mean, donors also like the fact that donor advised funds offer them the option of having their next generation become involved as advisors in conversations with charities that benefit from their donor advised fund. After a one generation successor advisor, the donor advised fund will have to dispense money to charitable options that the founding donor has set up. So that brings us to us. A community foundation is slightly different, and some may say radically different, actually, from commercial bank standard donor advised funds, because a community foundation offers the donor the chance to set up their own, I don't know, let's call it their own personal endowment. There are certain types of funds that community foundations offer that can be great resources for your charity. Have a conversation with us if you know that you have a donor connected to the foundation. We are seeing more and more an interest by donors in designated funds. People want to set up designated funds that after their lifetimes have an annual spendable that operationally supports specific charities. It's a great option that's not offered by big national DAF carriers. Okay? This kind of goes back
Uh,
to,
Matt, can I say one thing about the
yeah, go ahead.
legacy? Um, if they have a DAF and they're setting it up to have a succession advisor, I mean, like their
Yeah.
child or nephew or something that's going to do it, that is a great opportunity for you as a nonprofit to ask, would you be willing to introduce us to your succession advisor?
Perfect.
Because if that
Yeah.
person knows that your organization was really important to their mother or their father or something, then it's another type of legacy gift to say they're willing to make the introduction for you to the next generation who might be interested in continuing. So it's another way to think about legacy gift.
Exactly. And CJ, perpetuating the conversation with the family. Donor advised funds are often an intersection of family members, and it's a great way to get the next generation involved in your charity. Okay? I'll give an example of the same kind of thing that we heard about from Mercy Care, the donor next door, who no one really knew about. A fellow up in Cranberry Lake set up a field of interest fund with us made a bequest to the foundation, had not notified organizations in the Cranberry Lake Clifton Fine area about what he was doing, and they were blown away by this profound support that he offers in perpetuity because of the type of fund that he could set up at this community foundation. You'll see that donor advised funds at a community foundation, they're designed to both do grant making and accrue value over time. So Robert Damus bequest came to us in 2012 at 2.5 million. It has a current value of 4.8 million. At the same time, it's dispensed over $1 million in grants over this time period, and it's a perpetual giver. It's a pretty amazing vehicle. And the town library, the ambulance squad, the fire station, um, uh, local municipalities, they're benefiting from this sort of far-ranging gift that Mr. Damus set up. Have conversations with your donors about donor advised funds and other funds that are related to them. Super important. Next slide, please. Okay. A huge option that should always be on the table. We've seen over the past 2 decades the ballooning of the net wealth that are in retirement funds and IRA funds. So pretty staggering figure, 44 trillion in the USA as of 2024. The stock market grows bigger and bigger because there are more everyday folks through their retirement funds investing in the market. And assets are growing exponentially, and it's a big part of the net worth of a lot of people. Have conversations with people about their IRAs. I'm going to point out the tax liabilities of IRAs. If an IRA goes to a non-spouse or a non-minor child, it's highly taxed. And after the Secure Act, there's a hurry up taxation on retirement accounts. Your adult offspring are going to be highly taxed over 10 years. So a lot of planned giving conversations now are about reducing that tax liability. Give to the charity through your IRA and reduce the tax implications on your kids. They'll inherit other assets, but this is a really tax smart way for people to grapple with planned giving and understand that they can really scale up their gift as a result. Next slide, please. And don't forget that IRAs are important for giving now. IRAs and qualified charitable distributions are becoming a bigger part of annual charity efforts. Make sure you're having conversations with donors about if there's age 70 and a half, making a qualified charitable distribution to you. Any kind of income that comes to you from your IRA is taxable, and you can offset the tax liability of any kind of income you take from it with a QCD if you're of the right age. There's also, once you turn 73, you have a required minimum distribution that you must start taking annual distributions from your IRA at that age. That age will increase over time. It will be up to 75, I think, by 2030. So any kind of QCDs, any kind of gifts you can make to charities is going to offset the tax liabilities or lessen the tax liabilities that happen because you're required to take distributions. Any distribution from an IRA is taxable income. I'll also point out that there is now, as a result of the Secure Act, and then it was reinforced by the OBBBA, the Big Beautiful Budget Act. There's a life income option that can happen as a result of a QCD from your IRA. You can make a one-time QCD per person, 55,000, so 110,000 per household to set up a charitable gift annuity or a charitable remainder trust that will give you annual income, and then that later can give a remainder to a charity or charities of your choice. Donors find this to be a smart option. Charitable gift annuities are tough. Charitable gift annuities are usually arranged by a big charity, the Nature Conservancy, for instance. United Way, we have a United Way rep here, right, Brian? I believe they offer a charitable gift annuity. But there are national firms that can help you set up a charitable gift annuity, as long as you have financial advisor input. Charitable remainder trusts, I'll explain them in a second, can also be set up with a QCD. Again, provide you income. They use the market. Gift annuities have a fixed amount that come to you, whereas charitable remainder trusts use market performance to vary your income depending. You get a fixed percentage, maybe 7% of the value of your charitable remainder trust that's sent to you every year. So donors find these to be smart options. They get fixed income and they can support their charity after they or loved ones have income during their lifetimes. Okay, next slide. Life insurance policies, yet another sort of common lawyer-free way to make a plan gift. You can, with a beneficiary form, sign over a policy to a charity of your choice, or you can hold on to the policy and continue to pay premiums on it, and collect the tax benefits, the future tax benefits of the gift that's made upfront. So it depends on the type of life policy, but this is a way that a lot of families are looking at amplifying their giving after their lifetime. Again, you need to talk to a financial advisor to see what works for you. But there are families who have multiple policies on kids, on spouses, and then also have policies that are derived from your employer. And over time, they may not be as applicable to your fiscal health. So they can be signed over to a charity and to great effect. I'm going to talk about another option here. Life insurance policies can be used for wealth replacement purposes. If you give from your IRA, that means your kids are going to see less from that IRA, right? Some donors are seeing this as part of a formula. Give to the charity from the IRA and use a life insurance policy to replace the value of the gift that went to the IRA to the kids. The kids will receive, for the most part, there are some variations, will receive the payout from the policy tax-free. Okay, so this can be part of a formula in combination with your IRA giving. Okay, next slide. All right, we're going to take another breather here. I will take questions, and then I'd love any kind of feedback from those who have had success with donors where have they had the most success? What sort of the four previous options have had the most traction for them? Anyone care to jump in? And we may have a question in the chat. I'm not sure.
Chrissy added a comment in the chat. I can just read it. All wonderful advice and tools. Thanks, Chrissy. Question of how the family thinks about philanthropy together. Together in the Adirondacks is helpful because your donor will tell you who is involved and who isn't. Sometimes using colorful language and feelings. I guess the question is how does the family think about philanthropy together? Did I get it right? Yeah, Phil.
Yep. I'm sorry, I could have just said this.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Hey,
definitely.
fire away.
But specifically, when donors will use that as a way to open up about the property and how the property is distributed. And
Mhm.
so, what I guess I'm suggesting is, even if that's not the vehicle, you get a sense of the commitment, the time the heirs are spending in the area, and then you can dig deeper, or even some cases make assumptions about how heirs are likely to be connected to the area specifically. So that's just
That's a,
Absolutely, Chrissy. And Chrissy is pointing out something I said earlier. This has to be a conversation to the point where you're sitting down with a piece of paper and saying, "Hey, what do you want to give with? How much do you want to support your favorite charity or charities? And um, how do you want to involve your kids? How are the kids and the properties and the boats, right? The second or third house, how are these involved and how can you escape tax liability by giving some of these things and taking a load off your kids too? The family dynamic should always be part of the conversation for sure.
and sometimes, they donors don't even know what uh, questions to ask. They don't know, they're not thinking, oh, I could use my life insurance policy or I could use my IRA. They don't know what options are available. And that's where a conversation with their professional advisor or a conversation with the community foundation can kind of open the doors to what's actually possible. So if you have a donor who's like, I want to think about legacy giving, but I don't know where to even begin, that's that's a great invitation for you and a professional advisor or Matt or myself to sit down with them and say, what do you want to do? Because we've got a bunch of tools that can support your organizations. They might have a bunch of assets that can support your organizations, but they don't know exactly how to put those pieces together. And that's why a community foundation exists, to help you be equipped to do that well.
Absolutely. Thank you, CJ. Linda, you have your hand up.
Yeah, this is, the- legacy giving, this type of giving has been like a big part of what we're thinking about. And,
Uh-huh.
what I love about this conversation more than where we've been successful is where I think we are going to be successful. It's like be neighborly, which involves being sort of a nosebag. Like, hey, introduce me to your family. Like
Yeah.
I would it it involves like being friends, being in relationship with, and that's
Mhm.
really where we've been putting our energy the last couple of years. We've started a holiday sending a holiday card. A bunch of checks have rolled in as a result. Sending a holiday card to like the top donors, just saying like happy holiday season. You know, we've made a couple magnets and bookmarks and things just in the last couple months, and sending them with a thank you just seems to
Mhm.
be, just, and calling and saying, "How are you? I had a thought, I had a question," you know, and I think that is ultimately where, our strength is going to lie in this pursuit of this type of
I think
gifting.
you're exactly
And
right. Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Linda. Um, I said before that people give not only to the mission and the charity, but they give to the people connected to it. There has to be an authentic relationship that's established with your donors ahead of this kind of conversation. This kind of conversation usually doesn't just happen overnight. It takes time and it takes deep-rooted relationship building. It's important. I'll take one more question. Glenn.
Yeah, thanks. We've never done Barkeeter Trails Alliance Adirondack Ski Touring Council. We've got a lot of supporters who have been with us for many, many years supporting the organization. This presentation has been really, really valuable in expanding how I think about legacy giving, because I had a very narrow expectation of what that meant and where we could expect the support. CJ, you mentioned that the need to help educate people on things like, well, it could be through insurance, your life insurance. It can be through your donor advised fund, your IRA. Do you have any language? We've never reached out to our community around legacy giving, but we're going to. Do you have language that you can provide that helps to doesn't answer questions, but sparks that process of thinking for the recipients?
I'll say, Glenn, and I'm looking at everyone in this Zoom room, cut and paste from the internet. There are a lot of great examples out there. We certainly have something, Glenn, we can send your way, but it should be personalized. It should speak the language of your donors. But there's so much information, especially about the common plan giving vehicles that I just discussed. But we can certainly, Glenn, you're going to have a slideshow coming to you that's going to have all this language. But I can send something to you. Okay.
I'll make a shout out. So in preparing for this conversation, Emily Dobmeyer of the Sinfonietta created a sheet, and I'm just going to brag on her process of doing it, because what she did was she took all of those, different methods of giving and said, this is why this one is valuable. This is why this could be valuable to our organization. Here's why this one is, and showing the donor why a life insurance policy might be a good gift for them to consider versus another one, and kind of weighing those options so that when they see that later, like, here are all the different ways we think about legacy giving, they can see, oh, that actually fits my situation. I've got a lot of IRA assets. I've got a brokerage account that I never use, or I've got a life insurance, policy that I know I'm not going to use. I didn't even know that I could give that. So that's highlighting those is really important. And for beta, I think the idea of coming up with a branded legacy, like you've got this bark eater idea, or like turning a wheel, or like turn the gear with us or something like that. There's some way to make it a creative, like, the gear pedal society, something that makes people feel like, oh yeah, I'm really a part of this. Would be awesome.
Thank you.
Great questions, folks. Well, I'm conscious we're closing in on an hour. We've got a couple more slides to go through, so we'll get back on track. Okay, the next couple batches of options that I'm presenting here are things you should know about, but you need a financial or a professional advisor involved with your donor to set these things up. Okay, critical. Life income gifts. The basic premise is the the donor makes a gift with certain types of assets, has during his or her lifetime income payments that are derived from it that come to herself, her spouse, loved ones that are listed as beneficiaries. Um, following the following the payments that are made during the lifetime, the charity is the beneficiary. Okay, that's the case of a charitable remainder trust. The trust has to be set up. It can use multiple assets. You'll see at the bottom of the screen there, you can set it up with cash, use closely held stock, right? Privately held stock, appreciated stock, and even real estate. There's estimated value that's established. There's a calculation of the amount that will go to the charity, and then the donor gets an upfront tax deduction for that. And then the the designated beneficiaries of the lifetime payments receive payments that are taxed. Okay, but this is a way of handling complex assets that are that are appreciated. If you've sold them, there would be tremendous tax capital gains tax liabilities. So if you channel them through a charitable vehicle, it's a much better way to impact your estate and your heirs. Okay. So I just described a charitable remainder trust where the remainder goes to the charity. You can also do a charitable lead trust that will soften the impact on your kids, usually, or your spouse, of assets that are funneled through a charitable lead trust that's set up to give lead gifts to a charity during your lifetime. And then either after your lifetime or after a term, the remainder goes to the beneficiaries of your estate or your trust, and the tax liability of those things are softened. A donor of ours, set up a lead trust with S corporation shares that that greatly diminished his tax liability on the kids. And we had payments to a fund up front that is working magic in our community right now. Okay. Charitable gift annuity I described before. It has to be offered and packaged usually by a charity, but there are other sort of national options that you can offer to your donors. But the donor, especially during an economic downturn, donors like these things because you get a fixed payment. There's an established fixed payment based upon your age. The older you are, the greater the payment on an annual basis. Again, the remainder will go to a charity. Okay, so there's good tax implications, and it reduces your estate, so your estate has fewer tax penalties. Okay, I can't emphasize enough. Know about these things, be able to describe them to donors, especially high net worth donors, but always make sure you're sitting down with them or they are sitting down with their financial advisors or legal advisors. Okay. Appreciated stock, I think we all know about, we can't underscore this enough. We get a lot of donor advised funds that get set up with appreciated stock. If you invested in Apple 25 years ago, it's very hard to cash out that stock without huge capital gains penalties. It's a great charitable tool. You give that stock to your fund or to your charity in your lifetime, and you get the full deduction and no capital gains penalties. Okay. Appreciated stock is often with a trustee's help is often given through the estate to charities. That way there's less tax penalties on the kids. Okay. Private closely held stock. These are really complex. This is stock that's not traded in the public marketplace. You, it can be held by numerous people, but usually privately and closely held stock is held by a select few. C corporations, we had a gift of a proposed gift of C corporation shares that were held by a family who owned a big farm out in the Midwest. We were counseled against it, and we dodged a huge, complicated liability. You always have to talk to a lawyer. Sometimes gifts don't work for the charity, and I would say that for real estate too. The top line here, if you're going to get into complex gifts, you must have a gift acceptance committee. Most boards have lawyers on them. You bring in other outside professionals. Every once in a while, you want to review a gift that's offered to you, be it a real estate or a boat or some other tangible personal property. You want to be able to review it, evaluate the value of taking it on, and have a committee of professionals that advises you on this. CYA, as the expression goes. You got to have a gift acceptance committee. Okay. Private, back to private, closely held stock. It's a big liability for an estate or for a family. And if it's cashed out the right way, it can be a great asset to the charity. We have estate gifts that are coming our way that are being liquidated by the trustee. It's always good to have most people who have privately held stock or stock that's held in these formats are often holding their assets in trust. A trustee can liquidate that for you and get that to the charity. That comes at a price, but it's a more convenient way to get the assets to you after the lifetime of the donor. Appreciated real estate. Believe it or not, real estate can be used to set up charitable remainder trusts. An estimated value of the real estate can set up a financial instrument that pays the donor during the lifetime and then gets the charity needed funds at the end of the term of the trust. Again, you always need a committee that's going to help you evaluate the value of the property. Is it saleable? Are there environmental issues, right? Is this a feasible gift for us? Will it work? And there's an increasingly popular option called a life estate, where a donor says, I have a property for you. You have your gift acceptance committee review it. They occupy the property during their lifetimes, and it can come to the charity and either be used by the charity or liquidated by the charity to add to its endowment. Okay? Real estate's complicated, but it's a huge asset, especially for families who have second or third homes. It's a way to give that's not sacrificial to the estate and saves your heirs. Okay? All right, we're wrapping up. I've run over here. Do you have more questions? CJ made the offer, and it's true. We've already had conversations with staffers from charities in the Adirondack region who have said, help us, counsel us. What are some ways we can tackle this kind of giving or this kind of gift? We truly believe at the Adirondack Community Foundation that a rising tide lifts all boats, that our funds, trust me, folks, we have designated funds and other types of funds that are going to give to local charities after the lifetime of the donors. That is our job, to make sure that donors are in a position to maximize the value and the impact of their giving in their lifetime and after their lifetime. We're here to help, and we're here to partner where we can. Okay? Any other specific questions about the wide-ranging stuff I've talked about here? If not, on behalf of everyone here, thank you for attending. Thanks for listening. Come back to CJ and myself and Kara if you have more questions. We're here to help. Kara says no. We're here. Okay. Thanks for the great idea, Kara. It is important that you guys are pursuing giving that's going to add to your endowments for the sustainability of your organizations, for sure. Take care, everyone.